Good morning, I should say. Good morning on Monday. A good actual Monday morning on August the 9th. Here we are on August the 9th, and we are pressing forward with the hard sayings of Jesus, or actually I should say returning to the hard sayings of Jesus, and we're going to press forward, and we're here live. I'm not on General Council. I'm not at General Council. I'm not on vacation. Here I am back at the desk, and here we are back on the hard sayings of Jesus. We'll be delving into more on Tuesday, and we'll find our devotions or meditations actually getting ahead by 2 perhaps, but this will all balance out. So let's, without any further ado, jump in. And let's look at fasting. Fasting. I remember whenever I think of the word fast, I think part of that is my Royal Ranger junior high boy days. I'm not sure I've outgrown them. And one of our favorite commercials was the commercial for the Marathon bar, and it was Quick Claude. He did everything quick or fast. And someone would stand there and say, I bet you can't eat an entire Marathon bar. And the whole idea was so chewy and full of caramel and so large that it would take a very long time to finish a Marathon bar. And even Quick Claude found that he couldn't do it quick. When people would talk about fasting, I would say, yeah, I fast at every meal. I eat fast. Well, that's because down in my physical self, I wanted to avoid the very idea of fasting. That is, the most obvious form of fasting is to do without food. But there are other variations on fasting, which is to go with very simple food, unexciting food, basic nutritious food that you never dream about or think about. No one sits around and says, oh boy, I could just munch on some lentils right now. It would give you protein, but it's not something that you're really looking forward to. So the forms of fasting varied, but there was at the center of Judaism, at the center of spiritual life, this concept of fasting, and Jesus fully embraced the idea of fasting. But he is going back to the root of it, and he's fixing it. There has something that has come along and has attached itself to fasting that Jesus finds he needs to root out of there. There have come up some traditions about fasting. Now we have Islam practices fasting. They go through Ramadan. They fast during the day and then make up for it at night. So if you can imagine taking all 3 meals, skipping them, and then late at night eating all of them, that doesn't strike me as fulfilling the idea of fasting. So traditions like that come into religious systems and the basic idea of fasting, and it did it in Judaism. It can do it in Christianity. When people come at it with different motivations, some people think it's kind of like the Cesar Chavez labor hunger strike, where we just refuse to eat until our demands are met. And so there are people who see fasting as actually a way of strong-arming God to do something he's hesitant to do. This authoritarian God who is looking at us as peasants and laborers will only move towards mercy and grace if someone threatens to kill themselves. This is definitely not the attitude of fasting that we want to see. So Jesus brings this teaching, and it's a hard teaching because it strikes at the heart of some of the motivations of the religious leaders, and it also encourages but calls his followers, everyone. He's actually calling everyone to times of fasting. And I will just say this as we go in. Fasting is a critical and crucial part of spiritual breakthrough. And there are things that don't happen, things that can't get done, if people don't commit themselves to fasting and prayer and move into the area that God has called them. So, let's jump right in to these two verses. When you fast, do not look somber as the hypocrites do, for they disfigure their faces to show others they are fasting. They want other people to see their misery. Oh, I'm on a 40-day fast. Oh, I'm really needing an answer from God, and so I'm going to look really sad and sour, and I'm going to moan and groan, and everyone's going to know that I'm in a time of fasting. Here's what Jesus said. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. Because what were they going for? Other people to see them as fasting. So they're fasting and they get no result except for an earthly human response of saying, wow, what a holy and dedicated person they are, disfiguring their faces and moaning and groaning and going without food. Surely God will hear their prayer. No, Jesus is saying they got every answer they were going to get. You've got everything you're going to get. So let's go further then. But when you fast, so for those of us that were hoping that Jesus would say, forget that fasting nonsense. That's just a bunch of religious gobbledygook. No, he says, when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that it will not be obvious to others that you are fasting, but only to your Father who is unseen. And your Father who sees what is done in secret, he will reward you. Wow. So he says, when you fast. So number one, we should fast. We should talk to the Lord about what we should remove ourselves from, or we should remove from our life, and go on some form of fasting and link it to prayer. But don't walk around carrying some sort of body language that tells everybody else that you're in some sort of distress or misery. No. He said, keep that between you and your Father. Now, if somebody finds out, if somebody says, well, I noticed that you didn't eat lunch. Are you okay? Oh, I'm fine. I'm just seeking the Lord. Oh, okay. But if you make this a big deal and the whole point is for people to see that you're fasting, you got all you're going to get. But instead, commit yourself to some fasting, link it to prayer and worship, and what you're saying is this: Father, your heart, your will, your direction, your wisdom, your breakthrough, your answer, your deposit of grace, your demonstration of mercy, your movement in this earth is more important to me than eating. It's more important to me than a meal. And I want to focus in on you. And if it costs me a couple bowls of Fruit Loops and a couple bologna and cheese sandwiches, that's fine, because you are worth it and this cause is worth it. And your Father will see that, and there will be an overflowing answer that does more than you can ask or think. And that, my friend, is the beauty of fasting. Don't be afraid of it, but begin to consider it, look into it, and allow the Holy Spirit to lead you into times of fasting. They're powerful. Lord bless you. Have a great day thinking about this. Maybe you'll skip a meal to think about it. Until tomorrow, Lord bless you. We'll see you then.